in the 06010.
Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Focus Football Podcast, the Css Dfs version. Today's show is presented by Geico. Switch to Geico. See all the ways that you could save. Me, Mike Clay, and our buddy Al Zeidenfeld joining us all the way from Los Angeles. Al, I got a real quick question for you. Do you mind?
No, shoot.
Earlier in the show, on the season-long show, I had this statement. I said, this kid just keeps hanging around.
Yeah.
He's got alligator blood.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what that's from?
Pay that man his money.
Pay that man his money.
Okay,
He
so he
beat
knows.
me.
Straight up.
That's from Rounders.
Yes, thank you.
I know this because I was already told the answer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would not have known that because I don't get references.
Al, so great to have you on the show, as it always is. What's it like out in Los Angeles for those of us here in the Northeast where it's 35 degrees and freezing cold?
So it's freezing cold out here, too. It's like 61 degrees.
Oh, okay.
I'm moving there right now. Can we host a Css Dfs podcast from Los Angeles? Can we
Yes,
do
I
that?
think from Al's basement,
I'd
we should
love
be able
that.
to do that.
It's
Yeah.
a live show.
We're doing a live show in Al's basement someday.
That sounds like a plan to me. CSS DFS live show would be dope.
Yeah, we're doing it.
All right, week 12 recap. Mike Clay beat me, but most importantly, the FF Oracle 195.86. Congratulations to you bringing down the number one spot in our tournament on DraftKings. Mike, you are up 9-3. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce did not come through for me last week. It was a tough one, but you had a number of really good calls. We talked about it. One of them being Garrett Wilson was pretty great last
Yeah, he was
week.
good. More to come on him.
More to come on him. Join our free league over at DraftKings. It's free to enter with $1,000 in prizes. Follow at Mike Clay NFL and me at Daniel Dopp on Twitter. You can also follow at Al Zeidenfeld on Twitter. We will tweet out a link to the league. Also, before we get any farther, in case you want to follow more of what Al does, because Al, you do more daily fantasy than just what we do here on CSS DFS, you can follow him at smizzle.tv/links, where Al, you've got a plethora of stuff for people to be able to come find the other content that you do.
100%. They can go click on a whole lot of things in that link tree. Smizzle.tv/links has all of my social medias and everything else.
There you go.
Everything else. Love it. All right. Let's get started with our Week 13 slate. Starting at the quarterback position like we always do, Mike Clay and Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about some guys I'm paying up a little bit for, right?
Okay.
Not top of the barrel, but a few guys like that. So I'm going with Joe Burrow at 6,900 here, sixth in pricing at quarterback, probably just a little bit too low. Look, he's 16 or more fantasy points in 10 of his 11 games this season. We're talking cash quarterbacks. Having that floor is terrific. 23.3 DraftKings points per game this season. That's just a really solid number, and it comes from a combination of things. Look, he's top 5 in pass attempts, completions, yards, and touchdowns. He's also top 12 in all quarterback categories, including 4 rushing touchdowns. So he's adding more value in that department this season. On top of all that, they're playing the Chiefs. They're going to have to throw it more than they normally would, barring a surprising early game lead. The Chiefs struggled against quarterbacks. 9th most fantasy points allowed, the 2nd most touchdowns with 22. And check this out, okay? So if you split it up between basically when they faced QB1s and when they haven't, look at the production they've allowed. They've allowed at least 19 fantasy points to Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, right? The good quarterbacks they play, that's where Burrow fits, right? 19 or more fantasy points to all of them. The guys, the quarterbacks they've held below that number, Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, Matt Ryan, Bryce Perkins, Malik Willis. So which category does Joe Burrow fall in? The 19+ one, right?
Yep.
He should be able to pay off this $6,900 value pretty easily this week.
And we also expect him to have a full complementary of his wide receivers here, as we think Jamar Chase is going to be back, which is huge.
Certainly helps, yes.
Certainly helps. All right. Outside of Joe Burrow, Al, which seems tough because taking on the Chiefs, a lot of points going to be scored in that game. Lot of double stacking potential, it feels like. Which direction would you go at quarterback if you were looking from a tournament play this week?
So I think that you can, Joe Burrow's price is nice, but I can go $300 to $7,200 and pay for Justin Herbert just a little bit. And he's got a matchup against Las Vegas, which is one that we want to attack pretty much, every week. Like they're like the West Lions. It's not quite Coors Field, but it's the Lions of the West is what we're looking at here. So Herbert has completed 75% of his passes over the last 2 weeks. It's funny how that kind of correlates with Keenan Allen coming back, right? He gets more talent on the outside. All of a sudden, he looks like a much better passer. And I mentioned that matchup with the Raiders. He has multiple touchdown passes in all 5 of his career games against the Raiders and 3+ in the last 3.
Hey, that seems pretty good. If you can throw
pretty good.
3 or more touchdowns in 3 of the last 3 games against that team, Justin Herbert also, just like Joe Burrow, who we just talked about, hopefully getting his full complement of wide receivers. Hopefully Mike Williams is healthy. But now that Keenan Allen is back, like you just said, Al, with Josh Palmer and Gerald Everett and Austin Eckler, this is the right time for Justin Herbert to be able to get healthy here.
And we've talked about this. The Raiders just every week give up, except for Russell Wilson week one time, just get crushed by quarterbacks. So it's a good spot.
Other quarterbacks that we like, if Justin Fields plays, Mike Clay, $7,400 taking on the Green Bay Packers. We also like Aaron Rodgers, $5,800 against Chicago. And Trevor Lawrence, $5,900 taking on the Detroit Lions. His passing yardage has increased in 3 straight games. Last week, he hit the 300-yard bonus for the second time this season against Baltimore. And now, guess what? He plays the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I thought about going that direction, but 1,000 more to get to Burrow against the Chiefs. I couldn't pass on that.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of points scored in that Chiefs game. All right, let's talk about some running backs. Seems really obvious. Josh Jacobs, period, put him in your lineup?
Yeah, I'm going to say so.
Okay.
He just had last week, not 30 points, not 40 points. How about 51.3 points last week at DraftKings? Unbelievable. If you put him in your lineup, you won.
Yes.
You had a great week. That's all you needed. That's unbelievable. So 39 touches in that game. Oh, he's questionable too, coming in. Just had 39 touches, 303 yards, 2 touchdowns. We're keeping an eye on his status. He is limited in practice this week. And who knows? I mean, sometimes guys make it through games and they do miss the next one. It's possible, so keep an eye on that. But right now, looks like he'll probably go. 6th in pricing at running back for the guy that's in some scoring is QB1 or RB1 this season. He's at least RB2 in all formats, at least 27 touches and 100 yards in 3 straight games, 20 or more touches in 8 of his last 10 games. I mean, the guy is getting a ton of volume. And of course, the matchup is outstanding. We pick on the Chargers run defense all the time, top 5 in yards, touchdowns, and fantasy points to running backs that are allowing 5.6 yards per carry to that position that is worst in the NFL. So great matchup, great volume, great player. Everything's set up nice. And again, $7,900. The price is not too bad.
Sub 8,000
for a question here.
Of course you can, Al.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. In the case that Josh Jacobs, who is not practicing all week, does not play. Let's say he can't make it through pregame warmups. Are we on Zamir White at 4K, or are we on Amir Abdullah at 4,600 on draft?
No.
Which one do you think?
I don't think we can. I mean, Amir Abdullah has 1 carry this season. And especially in I mean, he's 95 snaps played. 93 of them are passes, which is an astronaut. I know he's their passing down back, but that's still an astronomical number. So he'll be involved. Brandon Bolden will get some carries. It could be 6 to 10.
Sure.
Maybe a couple targets. Zamir White may get 10 to 12 carries, but he's been a healthy scratch at times, right? So they also have Britton Brown on their roster, who no one knows who that is, but he's a special teamer. He was inactive last week. He could be involved, and who knows? Maybe he's like Zonovan Knight and has 15 carries. Like we just don't know for sure, but they will use a bunch of backs. And this was our analysis in the offseason on Jacobs was like, this is why we like Jacobs on the pod, right? Because we're like, everyone's like, he's buried and he's going to be in a committee. With who? Like, they didn't have real competition for him, right? And that has played out that way. So I think they're just going to use a lot of guys, and we can't trust any of them in cash at least. You throw a dart in a tournament, of course.
Of course. Yeah. On the other side of that game, Al, you talk about a pass-catching running back in Austin Eckler, and this is supposed to be a super high-scoring game. Do you like Austin Eckler on the other side of Josh Jacobs?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I like I like running back. I always target targets, right? Specifically at running back, because they're worth so much more expected fantasy points versus an individual carry. So if you give me like that Alvin Kamara usage that we always talk about, 12 to 15 carries with 6, 7, 8 targets, that's what we're looking for, right? So he's not exactly getting to that every game. He had 5 rushing attempts last week, but he had 15 targets. That adds up. He's on pace to break the single season reception record at running back, which CMC set, I believe, in 2019. He's absolutely a monster. There's 5 players in the league that have 7 or more catches in 7 or more games this year. Tyreek Hill, Steph Diggs, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, and Eckler. Like, he's putting up this ridiculous season specifically for DraftKings scoring, PPR scoring. Why would you not play him against a team like the Raiders, who just give up a ton of points? He correlates well with Justin Herbert too. So you can use him in stacks. I typically cut off my running back usage with quarterback stacks because I'm typically trying to leverage off of running backs when I do that. But if you have a running back that's getting over 15% of the target market share, I'm fine correlating them with a quarterback in a double stack.
Yep. Which makes a ton of sense. And I know you've said that all season long. Austin Eckler, one of the few running backs that you can do that with a quarterback. Couple other running backs that we like here on this Week 13 slate include Joe Mixon at $7,100 taking on Kansas City. Travis Etienne, $6,400, Mike, taking on the Detroit Lions. Dameon Pierce, $5,900, taking on Cleveland. The Browns are not good at stopping the run.
Nope.
A little bit of concern about potential game script, but again, a ton of volume here. I know you talked about this on the season-long show,
Yeah.
and $5,900 is really cheap for Dameon Pierce and the volume that he's getting. Aaron Jones, also $6,900, taking on the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, looks like ETN should be healthy, good to go for this one. And yeah, I do expect a Pierce bounce back game. He played 2 tough run defenses in a row. The price is under $6K. I like him.
Like him. You know, Geico asks, how would you love a chance to save some money on insurance?
I would.
Well, of course you would. And when it comes to great rates on insurance, Geico can help. Like with insurance for your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, and RV, even help with your homeowners or renters coverage. Plus, an easy-to-use mobile app available 24-hour roadside assistance and more. And Geico is just an easy choice, guys. Switch today. See all the ways that you could save. It's easy. Simply go to geico.com or contact your local agent today. All right, for wide receivers, Mike Clay, last week, you said, hey, Garrett Wilson's an option that you could potentially play. And then Garrett Wilson, I think, had 5 catches for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. Is that accurate?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Sounds about right. So he did pretty well. Would you trust him again maybe this week going up against Minnesota?
I would.
Okay.
And he is my value play at wide receiver this week. Still just 5,300, 24th in pricing for a guy that's really a borderline top 20 play on the full slate. Obviously, this does not include every game.
DraftKings doesn't trust Mike White is what this tells me.
I guess so. I mean, look, Wilson has been very inconsistent all season long. He had a good start. He had a big lull there, but he's been much better as of late. At least 7 targets, 92 yards, and 17 fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games. To your point, had 8 targets and 2 touchdowns in his first game with Mike White, who looked like he injected at least some life into that offense. And yes, you could say, well, Zach Wilson had a tough schedule and they had an easier game last week. Well, it's an easy game again this week. They're playing Minnesota. They've allowed the most fantasy points over expected to wide receivers this season, the second most catches, the second most receiving yards, the second highest yards per target, the second highest completion rate to receivers.
Wow.
So it's been rough. And Garrett Wilson is the number 1 receiver at just 5,300 in this offense. So I love him at this price point.
And the number 1 wide receiver, and it's really not even close. I know Elijah Moore got in the end zone last week, but like it's not between those 2 wide receivers. It is clearly
he's in
Wilson.
the slot. He's essentially their third receiver. They have 11 personnel on the field. He had 2 targets and played 21 snaps in that game. Did Elijah Moore? So he's not even second. He's third. Corey Davis is the 2. So
yeah,
no, not worried about Elijah Moore. Maybe he'll play more. It's possible. Maybe they ramp up his usage and they throw to him more. It could happen. But Garrett Wilson is their 1.
All right, Al Zeidenfeld, I appreciate what you're about to do here, as usually you pick guys that are taking on the Detroit Lions, but instead we're going to talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown on the other side of this Jaguars game.
Lions this week. I am also going to be picking some Lions this week because that is one of the highest total and fastest paced games on the week. And the Sun God has 5 straight games with 8+ targets. He is also leading the league with 26 catches over the last 3 weeks. I think that he's going to have a run-in similar to last season where he had this ridiculous market share, like 8+ catches in every single game. I'm going to lower it to 7. I'm going to say over 7 catches, 7 or more in every game for the rest of this season. And it's not like Jacksonville is really good defensively, but they have not played a lot of elite wide receivers when you look at their schedule, like wide receiver 1s. The last 2 that they played were Devontae Adams in week 9 and Michael Pittman in week 6. And respectively, that pair had 10 catches on 17 targets for 146 and 2 touchdowns for Devontae Adams. And Michael Pittman put up 13 catches on 16 targets for 134. So I would not be shocked if the 35% target market share that Amon-Ra St. Brown has seen the last 4 games gets him like an 8-catch, 120-yard game with a touch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would love to see that too, if I'm being honest.
7,100 for what he brings to the table, just not... That's good.
For the volume that he is getting in that offense is great. A couple other wide receivers that we like here on top of Garrett Wilson and Amon-Ra St. Brown, like Mike and Al just said. Terry McLaurin, $5,800 taking on the Giants. Christian Watson is only $5,200. Obviously, we're going to wait and see how that touchdown regression works out, Mike. But $5,200 is so cheap for a guy that's getting targeted by Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, it's maybe their number 1 now.
Devontae Adams, $8,700 taking on the Chargers. Christian Kirk in that Lions game, $6,300. Mike Williams, if he is back this week,
$5,900.
sub $6K. That is such a good price for Mike Williams. Tyreek Hill, $8,800. You can always throw Tyreek Hill with the volume that he gets in there, taking on a tough 49ers defense. Keenan Allen, $6,500 again against Las Vegas. And Jamar Chase, you talked about Joe Burrow. If you wanted to match him up, $7,900 against the Kansas City Chiefs. Only 2 teams on a bye, like we have said a bunch, which means basically the full gamut of players is available to us here this week, Mike Clay.
Yep.
All right, let's talk some tight ends, where one of the only tight ends that it's been consistent throughout the season has been Pat Freiermuth, someone that we've ranked inside our top 8. And here we are again, $4,300 against an Atlanta team that can be beat.
So I went with the 6th-priced quarterback, the 6th-priced running back, and the 6th-priced tight end.
All right.
Pat Freiermuth, 4,300. Just a number that still feels a little too low. Career high, 12 targets last week. He has at least 7 in 7 of his 10 games this season. Now, he hasn't scored a touchdown since week 2. It's been a while, but he does still have 12 or more fantasy points in 5 games this season. Those touchdowns will follow if he continues to get this sort of volume. As for the matchup, well, Falcons' 10th most fantasy points to tight ends this season. They've only allowed, again, 2 touchdowns, but they've allowed the 3rd most catches. So as long as he's seeing those 6, 7, 8, 9 targets, he's going to catch a lot of passes and pay off this $4,300 price point. I like it. Like you said, he's been, as far as tight ends go,
yes,
he's had a decent floor.
As far as tight ends go, he has been as utilized almost as much as anyone else not named Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce. He's right where you're at. David Njoku. Al Zeidenfeld is another tight end that we have seen some stuff from so far this year. And now he has a new quarterback under center with Deshaun Watson, only $3,900 against the Houston Texans this week.
So we've seen some stuff from David Njoku.
We certainly have.
I like that. A good explanation for what we've seen. What we've seen is at least 6 targets in 6 of his last 7 games. The one that he didn't get there was 2 weeks ago, which was his first game back from injury, and he played less snaps and ran less routes because they were easing him back in. He has gotten a ton of volume, and he's sitting under 4K on DraftKings. Now, I do think that the Browns are still going to be a run-the-football team, also possibly against Houston in this spot, who is one of the teams we want to stream running backs against. But they do have that upgrade under center. I could see their run-pass mix moving more towards the pass with Deshaun Watson under center as opposed to Jacoby Brissett, who did well this year. Like, I did not expect Jacoby Brissett to be as efficient as he has been, and he's really helped David Njoku and Cooper have good weeks, like in, whether it was Cooper at home or Njoku pretty much anywhere. Now we get an upgrade at quarterback, much higher touchdown expectancy for everybody in this passing game, Njoku included, but he has that really high floor and can pay off that $3,900 salary without wandering into the painted area. But if he does, he's going to be a big time smash.
Yeah, David Njoku, someone that we've talked about and we both like this week too, Mike, with all the things that Al just said. Not a whole lot to add there. A couple of other quarterbacks, tight ends that we like every week is a Travis Kelce week.
Of course.
In case you were wondering, $7,900 against Cincinnati. And Tyler Higbee.
You could cross him off now. This was pre Matthew Stafford news. So
good news.
I don't think we're going to mess with Higbee. 3,700 isn't awful, but he had 0 catches last week with Bryce Perkins under center, so let's shy away from that one.
Yeah, without Matthew Stafford there, I think I'm in the same boat as you.
You could pay what? 600 more to get to Freiermuth, right? And Njoku's 39. He's only 200 more. You're going that direction.
All right, let's look at our Week 13 head-to-head lineup. So, Mike Clay, I'll let you go first.
All right, let's go. Going Joe Burrow, of course, at quarterback. Dameon Pierce, we talked about him. I'm buying low, essentially. Here. I'm going to go with Pierce. Travis Etienne as well. Barely played last week. He got injured early. They kept him out for precautionary reasons, but we expect him to play. I'm also going to go with the 3rd running back, Josh Jacobs, in the flex this week. Wide receivers, Terry McLaurin. Back, same thing as last week. I got McLaurin and Garrett Wilson just like last week. Still priced too low. Christian Watson at 5,200. And Pat Freiermuth with tight end. Houston defense punting a little bit there at 2,300.
That's not a bad lineup. I mean, Josh Jacobs, Dameon Pierce, and Travis Etienne. Those are, again, and you've been doing this, it feels like all year long. The volume that you're able to get from the running back position is just huge here.
Which is totally fine in cash. I'll take that all day. We're just trying to beat, trying to win those 50-50s.
That's right.
Head-to-heads.
All right, that's not a bad lineup, Mike Clay. My Week 13 lineup also includes Joe Burrow. It's hard not to at $6,900. I've got Travis Etienne as well, but I've got Aaron Jones.
Okay.
$6,900 taking on the Bears. I'm also going with Jamar Chase. $7,900 first week back against the Chiefs. I got Garrett Wilson as well, $5,300. With Mike Williams sub 6K, hoping he's healthy. I will check that as we get closer to game time. Hayden Hurst in that same Cincy game, $3,500. And then Zay Jones at $4,900 after the last 2 weeks that he has had with Trevor Lawrence, sub 5K, taking on the Detroit Lions, taking a little bit of a dart throw here with Zay Jones, and then I'm punting with the Titans defense at $2,200 because I didn't have any money left.
Okay, I like it.
All right, and a reminder, go check out Mike Clay's DFS breakdown, both for DraftKings, for FanDuel, for everything. We can go through it. It's an E+ article that gives you all of the values, great values, good values,
it's just
average values.
It's charts for each position. It just shows our projections with their price point and which are the best values based on our projections. So you can scroll through. If you don't like the guys we're talking about, go find your own.
Go find some other people. All right, Al Zeidenfeld, give us your tournament lineup.
So I wanted to break some rules here.
What?
I'm still doing things with a double stack, but I'm breaking some of the rules. I've got Justin Herbert double stack. I'm playing this as though Mike Williams is not going to be in. If he is, obviously I'll adjust. So Herbert to Eckler and Carter, who has done very well as the wide receiver 3 there since Keenan Allen has come back. We're going to bring that back with Josh Jacobs because he's really, really good at football right now, and I want to get him into this lineup. So 2 running backs from the same game and stacking a quarterback with his running back. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Zay Jones as the secondary stack. I've got Quez Watkins in here, who has 3 straight games in double digits on DraftKings since Goddard has been out. He's played a lot more snaps and run a lot more routes. David Njoku, the aforementioned tight end that we just spoke about. And I've got the Steelers D just to make it work because I'm willing to punt defense.
Yeah, I like the Watkins call in tournaments. I was wondering, we kind of wondered how will things change with Goddard out, and it's changed by them just not targeting the tight ends at all. It might be one targeted game. Those have gone to Quez Watkins. To your point, he's playing more. He's seeing more volume. The target shares are up. Devonta Smith has benefited as well. And we also saw Miles Sanders get 3 targets last week. So we've definitely seen a big philosophy shift where other teams might just target the backups. All those targets might just go to the backups. That has not been the case for the Eagles. Credit to them getting an explosive player like Watkins involved.
I mean, basically nothing has been average for the Eagles. You guys have just been awesome this year across the board. So it's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, doing a great job.
They really have as a football team. All right.
That's it.
That's going to do it for our Week 13 CSS DFS podcast. Again, follow him at Al Zeidenfeld on Twitter and check out smizzle.tv/links for everything that Al does outside of this podcast. Follow at Mike Clay NFL. I am at Daniel Dopp. We love you guys. Don't forget to love each other. Please be kind to yourself. And everybody else, we'll see you on Friday for the season-long show. See ya.